And welcome back to Pop Culture Investigations, where no case is too big or too small to handle, and where there's no escape from the ever-watching critical. I am your investigator, Dr. Luke Deckard, and with me is Neil Vagg. And yes, I played the wrong
I'm
intro because I'm
back.
tired and sick, and
I was
that's
like,
what
this
happens.
is different. What
I
is this?
know. That's the intro for the normal podcast, for the one where I do interviews with people, and I clicked the wrong one. I'm tired, and I've been ill, and yeah, there we go. There we go.
You bi-generated the theme tune into two
I did.
versions at
I
the same time.
generated the theme tune. So yeah, okay, here we are. We're here talking about the conclusion of Doctor Who, the Doctor Who 60th anniversary. Kicked off a few weeks ago with the Star Beast, then we had the Wild Blue Yonder, and now we have the Giggle. And boy, what a 60th anniversary. What a 60th anniversary. I think it was last week I said that Stephen Moffat handled the 50th so much better than Russell T Davies is handling the 60th, and I feel vindicated by that. And I'm sure there's going to be a ton of people on the social media who are just going to gobble up what we just watched and love it from start to finish on a superficial level, in the way that people like gobble up like various superhero shows and things like that. But
Me.
I mean, I do too. I watch a lot and I like a lot, but this was just. We'll get into it. So the Giggle, the synopsis is: the giggle of a mysterious puppet is driving the human race insane. When the Doctor discovers the return of the terrifying toy maker, he faces a fight he can never win. It's written by Russell T Davies and directed by Shania Button. Sure. So we'll kick off from the very beginning. At least in the UK, if you're watching BBC, they always have a live presenter between shows to say a couple words. And I found it annoying that the presenter was like, in the next Hooniverse special, I was just like, oh, stop it. Stop it with this Hooniverse bullshit. Stop it. And then we, of course, got our small logo of it. And then we enter the episode. But before we go in and kind of go with it beat by beat, Neil, I'm curious. I want to know what is your sort of initial reaction to the episode. How did it leave you?
Okay. Why isn't this straightforward? I really enjoyed the first half. First half, I sat through thinking, this is what I want.
Yeah.
Great pace. Relatively menacing villain. Like, I feel some stakes. I feel the Doctor's quite desperate. It all feels a bit dire. I'm like, yes, this is what I want. And it just fell off in the second half. So I feel quite disappointed. I liked it. Don't get me wrong. I did like it. But I'm disappointed by how it wrapped up. And I don't... Yeah, this wasn't an anniversary celebration. This was a fun mini-series of season 4.5.
Yeah, it was. It felt like all three of these specials felt like middle of the season episodes. None of them felt like, here's your big bang opening, here's your midpoint highlight, here's your finale. It felt like just any old series of episodes that would happen like slap dab in the middle.
This one nearly got there. It really, okay, it was a very slow first scene, but with chaos in the streets, Toymaker dancing around pretending to be Jack Nicholson, and then airlifting everyone to Avengers. Sorry, not Avengers Tower, Unit Tower. I was like, okay, you've almost done it. You've almost got like a big apocalyptic finale, and then
just what happened to it? Where did it go?
You played hacky sack. Oh, right, okay, actually, but what I will say before we do get too far into it, though, I really like Shooty. I thought Shooty was actually great.
I mean, I can't say yes or no.
What we got, I enjoyed the way that he was characterized here.
Yeah, I will have to wait for a whole episode. It wasn't terrible, but it's like any Doctor. Whenever they first pop on, it's never enough. It's never enough to tell whether they're good or bad. From what we got, it wasn't bad. It just wasn't. We'll get to the ending. For me, the ending with him is the actual ending of the episode is really bizarre and felt like, where's the rest? There was just, if I think about, like, I don't know, I think about David Tennant when he originally
Yeah.
generated it, he, Matt Smith took over and he has this fun little scene. He's like, "Oh, what's happening?" He's like, "Oh, I'm crashing." And then that's when the episode ends. Like, okay, that's fun. When Peter Capaldi takes over, it's that's a strange sort of shock just after, the big battle and stuff. And you know and he's like, "My kidneys, I don't like the color." There's things that are kind of happening. And I guess when Peter Capaldi regenerates into whatever her name is, the Jodie
Jodie.
Whittaker, I'm sick. I've been ill, people. I've been ill. I'm not firing on all cylinders. There was also kind of a sense of drama happening within the TARDIS and stuff. So
Yeah,
this
no
was
drama to this one.
no, there wasn't. Like, I was expecting just maybe a little something, other than just sort of, staring at the TARDIS. I don't really understand why both of them had a jukebox. We'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get there. So this the episode opens up with 1925, and the toy maker is there, and he has a shop of toys, and for some reason he has a terrible, terrible, terrible German accent. Like, it infuriated me the whole time. Like, I don't know why someone thought this was a good idea.
I thought it was hilarious. I loved it.
See, I hated it.
I mean, in a it's so bad it's good way, but I kind of almost felt like it was on purpose.
I mean, maybe, but I guess the point of it, I was just that, why? Like,
Yeah,
and
why?
I don't
What
know
was
if
the
this is
reason?
because I also rewatched what the one episode that we have of the original Toy Maker, with Michael Goff, the guy who plays
Was that Goth?
yeah,
No way.
yeah, who plays Alfred in the
Yes.
original Batman
Oh,
movies.
yeah.
So yeah, so great actor. Like, there is zero
Connection.
similarities in character wise between what he was like and what Neil Patrick Harris was like. Like, Neil Patrick Harris's Toy Maker is a bit like the way Russell T Davies handled the Master, which was just to make him lunatic.
Yeah.
And I got to be honest, I don't like Russell's Master. I never did. It was always a bit too much.
Back.
Yeah, and he's back. He or she, whichever version of the Master, will be back because the tooth was found at the end. So yeah, yeah. So the accent really annoyed me. I just couldn't understand it. But
Stylistic, very odd choice because it makes it very slapstick.
yes,
If you're trying to kind of build a sense of drama and tension, which I felt like they did a reasonably good job of in the streets, kind of running around in that desperation,
yes,
that cut through that really, really pretty quickly by just sounding fake.
yes. I thought so. And then, because then this guy comes in and he buys one of the dolls. It's called Stooky Bill, puppet, creepy looking puppet thing. And it's because around the corner he works with the guy who invented the television.
John
And
Ladybird.
and yeah, there we go. And he needed that. That all that was fine, I guess. But
You
are
know
we?
what, though? Why? You almost tied it back to you. So they tied it into the history of TV. Why not have found something similar or some kind of event that happened in the same year that Doctor Who started to make it this is something that's been happening for 60 years?
Yeah. Well, exactly. It's a good
Or is
point.
that too obvious? Because to me, I'm like, well, why didn't you do this? Why couldn't you? You could have made this a celebration of 60 years of something by tying it back to events that who knows what happened on TV the same night that Doctor Who first premiered. There must have been something on another channel. I know there was only like 2 channels, but seriously, something else had to have happened that night.
Yeah.
Like, find something like that as your endpoint, because then you could have traveled back to the day that Doctor Who started.
Yes.
Maybe that's too meta, but I
would have bought that more than just some. The problem, one of the problems that I had with this opening is, one, I thought it was boring. And that the whole 1925 bit, I just didn't find it exciting. But also, it's wildly convenient that the guy who invented the television just happens to send someone around the corner to the toy shop. You know what I mean? It's like, if the toy maker is so ingenious, why would he not just infiltrate it in a more obvious way?
Yeah.
Like he's relying on someone just going around the corner and buying it's like, really? So that was your plan, that you were just hoping that this would happen? Like, what steps did you take to ensure that this happened? Because that just seems wildly convenient.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So I wasn't fond of that initial intro, but like the puppet thing is a cool, scary looking thing. So it's like, I was trying to give it some slack for the opening, but I think because last week's was so boring for me,
Yeah.
and and then the first week was so average. I was like, this really has to win for me. This really has to sell me. And that opening just didn't do it for me. Again, if we're talking like episode 7 out of 14, okay, fine. It's, I could maybe stomach it a little bit more, but like 3 out of 3.
Structurally as well, you could have put that somewhere else in the episode. You could have put it after the reveal. So after he had, put it on all the monitors and they'd realized what the giggle was.
Yes.
He could have considering they then went back to that exact day. He could have gone back and then discovered how it had happened, meaning that you could have cold opened into chaos in the streets.
Yes. Yes.
At which point we all would have been like, "Ooh."
Yes. Well, one thing I was thinking about. One thing I was thinking about is when we'll skip over some bits, but we'll go back to them. One thing I was thinking about was when Doctor and Donna were in the toy shop and they were getting lost inside the endless maze.
Yeah.
And they were seeing all the creepy puppets and all that kind of stuff. I was like, we probably, like, this would have been the more interesting build up to the toy maker. But because we've already seen him twice, and now we're getting this, I'm like, well, I don't really care about these creepy puppets because they were creepy, but now they're not creepy because we know it's him doing it. So it's not that interesting. I mean, just thinking about, like, I think because again recently I watched The Angels Take Manhattan, and like the little baby angels are really quite scary. And when Rory is trapped in the basement with them, and like those were still creepy, even though you knew it was a weeping angel. There was still a sense of fright, but because you knew I don't know, there was just something about knowing who the actual villain is behind the puppets de-escalated some of that tension for me, because I didn't buy that they were going to be a real threat. And then Donna just bashes its head and the rest of them go and hide. And
Which was kind of grim, really, when you think she just actually sort of bludgeoned her to death.
It was.
I totally get where you're coming from, because you could have, again, I think there's like a more intelligent, that's a bit harsh, version of when he's dancing around in the street, where he could have been dancing around in the street and he didn't need to bump into David Tennant and they didn't need to stare at each other.
No.
He could have been a looming presence where we would have been like, well, that's Neil Patrick Harris. What's he doing?
Yes. Yeah.
And then, you build that tension and reveal him after they've gone through the maze.
Yes, exactly. Just saying a quick hello to General Grievous 19 in the chat. Hello, General Grievous. Good to have you. So anyway, we get back. There's the dancing in the streets, and as you really you pointed out rightly, it does feel very much like a Jack Nicholson Joker take. It has to be.
It could be the top and tails thing, but it's something about even the movement and the way he just places himself just felt like that. And that
yeah. But then again, who played the toy maker at the beginning? So that connection is there. That connection is there.
I went to that place without even realizing.
Yeah. I wouldn't have known this if I hadn't gone back and watched the episode the other day. And then for some reason at that point in the present day, for some reason the toy maker is speaking French.
Yeah.
And I was like, why?
And his accent had slipped as well, so I don't know what his real accent was, because it was constantly something.
Yes. And it really made no sense to me. The original toy maker wasn't swapping between accents and things like that. So I wasn't connecting with what the purpose of the swaps were meant to be.
I will come back to this a bit later, but I again feel like this is another episode where things were taken out. There were a few moments, and most of it was kind of later on, which is why I will mention it again. But I again felt like there were cutscenes here from a longer cut of this episode.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, or maybe Russell just got bored.
If you now told me that there were 90-minute versions of each of these, I would not be surprised.
I don't know. I mean, maybe not, but at the same time, I'm like, what I guess I'm like, what this? It was so action focused, and I'm like, but you know, what would they have cut? Just more action? I guess I'm finding it hard to believe at the moment that there are cuts on the floor that were like the good character moments.
So there was some. So the bit that really made it stand out to me was when they were in the tower later on, because he'd given Melanie the box and said, "Look after this,
Yeah,
or get it, keep this away from him, put this somewhere safe." And then when they all ran outside, she brought it with her for some reason, and
yeah,
I don't know why, but it stood out like a sore thumb that there was a moment there where
that's
even just
true.
a small shot where he'd said to her, "I need you to bring that." Because the last dialogue that you've had is him saying, "Protect this with your life," basically. So I'm like, so why did she then bring it outside towards danger?
That's a good point.
And there's
That's
just
a good,
there's a
yeah,
few moments like that in all three of these specials where something has happened where I feel like I missed a tiny slice of conversation, and that's where I'm like, ooh, I
yeah,
feel like there's been some trimming somewhere.
yeah. Possibly. There was also the thinking about the Star Beast. There's that moment where the meep or whatever the hell it's called, was like, oh, you know, the boss. We're gonna tell the boss. Well, that
They'll
never
never come back.
that's not
Yeah.
resolved. But then when the toy maker is bundled up, he also says something about like a threat is coming, another
Yes.
threat. So it's like, okay, you know, is it more now? Is more crap on the way? And this is kind of, or I know we mentioned this earlier in another episode, but it's like, you know, at least in series 5, like the story arc was handled really well with the cuts in time and space, right? With Matt Smith's first season, but Russell just isn't very good at season arcs. And
Mhm.
all he really does with them is just kind of drop a hint, like a word, and that's meant to be the connecting tissue. And I feel like that's kind of what's happening here, and then maybe
Yeah.
something will come of that in Shooty's first season, maybe. But I'm also just sort of over that. I'm like, don't half-ass commit to something. Either do something and build upon it nicely, like
Yeah.
other shows have done. I mean, I think lame example maybe, but like I think Smallville was a really good show that had, you know, 23 episodes per season, but there was always a really good series arc
Mm.
that would every couple episodes there'd be a little bit, or even in
Yeah.
like almost pointless episodes there'd just be a little nod as
Yeah.
to what's coming. And
Same with
and
the Buffy's,
yeah,
Angels,
yeah,
X-Files, and mythology
yes,
episodes that would spring in that would then come back later. Yeah,
yeah,
there are much better ways to do it, and I feel like it's something that British TV's never done particularly well,
no,
unfortunately. Although
no,
there are some amazing examples out there now, like Lazarus Project, which is a
mm,
Sky time travel show, is one of the greatest examples of serialized British television in the history of British sci-fi.
I feel like
Um,
I need to watch it
we
now.
can do it, but in fact, Russell T Davies cannot,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
no, he can't. So as you said, so then there's big chaos in the riot in the streets,
Hmm.
and Unit comes in, and we see the very bad Wilf stunt double, which was terrible.
So I can't remember when he passed away, but it can't have been that long after probably filming.
Must not have been.
So I presume he was maybe not up to it. But then why not have
The episodes start at a much later point.
yeah, why not have just said, he's gone to be with the rest of the family because we already know that they're in a safe house because he
Yeah,
told us.
yeah,
Rather than have somebody in a Santa Claus beard and wig in a wheelchair who's never seen on screen apart from in one awful side shot.
yeah.
It's
Nuts,
like
absolutely nuts to me.
it's like the classic trope of trying to hide the pregnancy belly.
Yeah,
Like I don't know, like Meredith Grey forever holding a clipboard, or like lab coat being just in the way of a pregnancy belly.
yep.
It's like you can see that Donna's pushing a wheelchair, but there's always something just in front of the handle that's blocking you from seeing who it is.
Wilf, yeah.
And it's
Nuts.
just, I don't know, it's yeah, yeah.
So that to me was embarrassing. They shouldn't have done that. I just thought, you know, it's so painfully obvious. Just stop it. You know, you have
Mm.
all this you have all this Disney money. Don't do that. Like,
And you've
don't
already
go.
dedicated the previous episode to Bernard Cribbin's memory, so just
Yeah.
mention him, like the final scene where he's off
Yes.
screen. Fine, absolutely
Yeah.
fine. Like,
Yes.
keep the character alive in everyone's memories because that's just a lovely thing to do. Don't give me
Yeah, no. I'm with you on
Milf,
that.
the strange stunt double.
Ugh, no. So then they're taken to Unit HQ, which is a giant new building in the middle of London.
That looks like Avengers Tower.
That does look like Avengers Tower. It is kind of shaped very similar to Avengers Tower. I hated it. I thought it was stupid. I thought it was stupid. I don't care about like the unit needs to be secret and hidden, like kind of stuff. But I just thought we had all like it was fun when Unit was hiding underneath the Tower of London. When
Mhm.
like Moffat did that in the 50th, and I was like, that's fun. I can go with that. And when, Kate's like, oh, someone needs to change the batteries in the Ravens. They're looking a bit sluggish. Like that's all fun stuff. Having a giant building in the middle of London that has a gun attached to it that you can shoot things in outer space. Just what?
I mean, we all remember what happened the last time they had a big gun that they could shoot at things in outer space. That was David Tennant's first Christmas special, and
Yes.
he ruined. Oh my god, why can't I remember her name?
Oh, Harriet
Jones.
Jones, Prime Minister.
He ruined Harriet Jones for firing a ginormous gun.
Yeah, that's true. That's a really goddamn good point.
He had nothing against it this time.
Yes. So two interesting things. One, we've already seen TV be used to do bad things by Alien, and that's the Idiot's Lantern. So
which you only just rewatched.
Yes, been there, done that. And then I think Mark Gatiss also wrote the very similar episode during Moffat's run where they used the internet as a way of controlling people. That was a very, very Idiot's Lantern ripoff. This to me was like, again, it's like, well, we've already seen TV, so we are retreading stuff. And I totally forgot about the gun. I totally forgot about the gun in David Tennant's Christmas special because that's exactly what. And so I'm like, I'm feeling the lack of originality. I'm feeling the lack of ideas. I'm feeling like I'm watching this episode. I'm like, okay, Russell was a great person to revive Doctor Who. He did an excellent job bringing Doctor Who back to life 30 years ago. It's not 30 years ago for anyone going to correct me later on. It's hyperbole. But he did it really well back then. I now firmly think he's not the person to take it forward. I just have no excitement again for Doctor Who. And I had it when he was, coming back and Tennant was coming back. I'm like, well, okay, cool. And then now I'm like, oh God, no, you've too many things have happened in just in the span of 3 weeks, 3 episodes that have just seemed pointless and annoying. Like whether it's, we're retreading old plots, or we're setting things up and there's no real payoff, or we're wasting a whole episode with just Donna and David Tennant just running around in a CGI background. Like where is the 60th excitement? Like where is any of that? Where is any of that? Whereas like again, I go back to Moffat's run when he did the 50th. Like it was great. Like everything about the 50th was just leading up, including the season right before the 50th. Like everything was just escalating towards a big fun celebration, and this just felt like a whimper. I don't know.
Yeah, I think he has definitely raised the bar from where it was, which was probably not a difficult job given the quality of the writing. But yeah,
raising the bar from Chibnall is pretty fucking easy.
he hasn't. I am excited. I am not as excited as I was before this started. I definitely have.
He hasn't surpassed Moffat. He hasn't surpassed Moffat.
No, and it's This might have been the right way to have brought it back from certain doom any other year other than a big anniversary year.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, it's
difficult.
Biffer Dahab is in the chat saying hello to both of us. So hello, Biffer. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Yeah. So he has pushed it. He's more than nudged it in the right direction. He has pushed it in the right direction. I mean, we've got really great production. We've got some more of the liveliness back in there. He's lightened it up a little bit, which is everything that we kind of needed from where it was. Yeah. But yeah, it's not far enough that it's blockbuster viewing for me quite yet.
Definitely not.
Christmas looks fun though. Christmas looks fun from the trailer.
Didn't even watch it. Didn't even watch it.
Right at the end of the credits, there was a brief teaser. The goblin looked cool.
Okay, yeah, totally missed it. Totally missed it. I was probably because I was trying to get ready. But yeah, so at Unit HQ, they bring Shirley back, and Kate is there. And the big thing that Kate says is, how do we fight the human race? This is where we learn in the episode that whatever is happening to the human race is that everyone now thinks that they're right. And therefore, everyone is arguing. Commentary. Say again.
Some good social commentary.
Some good social commentary that I kind of felt like holding that mirror up to Russell a little bit. Like, remember what you were saying about Davros, and remember your reactions to fans online when you're being kind. Like, you gotta be really careful as a creator how you engage with people online. I think, and I gotta admit, I wasn't overly amused with his responses to people on Instagram who were sort of like annoyed about his retconning of Davros. Because again, it's kind of like this episode. It's like, okay, you got your sort of comments about everyone's fighting online and everyone has to be right, and that's kind of whatever. It's like, yeah, okay, well, take the higher road. You just don't respond.
Yeah,
just don't respond. That's all you got to do. You can disagree, just don't respond. That's fine. So yeah, I was like, kind of a fun idea. You can kind of play with it a little bit, but I'm just not sure if that really held up for the whole episode. Like,
what did you think of the actual? So ignore Avengers Tower for a minute. What did you think of the set for their little command center, where they surprised us by bringing back Melanie?
Yes, they did. They brought back Melanie. Remind the audience and me who she was the companion to. Was it?
I'm gonna have to Google that. Bonnie Langford. Although now I understand why she was out promoting these three, because she was out promoting it and saying, "Yes, I'm in Ncuti series," which she is.
Yes. Yeah. So it was interesting seeing Melanie come back, but I kept thinking about the school reunion episode with Sarah Jane, and that Russell T Davies did, I think, in series 3. No, series 2.
6th and 7th Doctor. She was companion to 6 and 7.
I had Sylvester McCoy in my head. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. So with Melanie, I thought, okay, we brought this old companion back. Majority of newer people watching aren't going to have any fucking idea who she is. When they brought Sarah Jane back for series 2 of the revival, way back in whenever that was, 2006, I guess. Like, that whole episode was spent around Rose getting to know her and reestablishing this connection between the Doctor and Sarah Jane and Rose.
Yeah.
And I just felt like, okay, you are crowding, and this is one of the problems I had with the first episode of Star Beast, is you were crowding the room with so many people that you're not allowing any time for proper like character growth. And so I just kind of felt like Melanie was there, but I was like, who were you the companion to, or why are you important? Like, the Doctor's tons and tons of companions. Like, why is he not mentioning the companions who fought the toy maker with him all those years ago? Like, they don't even get a mention. So it's kind of like, why is she important? So that to me was odd, because it was just so.
Well, you needed her to sing the arpeggio, and she is a West End star.
Only she could do it. Only she could do it.
They thought, which of the companions is currently in the West End? Oh, I know, Bonnie Langford.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So, we have Robbo Brando. He says, "Hey everyone, I did not like it." Well, Robbo, you're in light company. I mean, Neil, you probably like it just a little bit more than I do. I'm very bored by what we just got. Like, what a dud. For me, it's a dud. The 60th anniversary is a dud. I mean, like, Stephen Moffat, like, cheers to you, buddy. Like, go lift your legs up, go have a nice bit of scotch and just relax, because your whatever annoyances that you did, they're all forgiven. I'd rather have you, occasionally annoying me than just be totally disinterested in Doctor Who, because at least I was interested when Moffat was there. When Moffat was there, and even though he was doing things I didn't quite like from time to time, like I was still there week after week. So yeah. Okay, yeah. So we get this moment with Kate, where Kate needs to demonstrate what the devices are doing to kind of, with their brain waves and all that kind of stuff. Like what blew my mind was she takes the device off, she starts doing her whole being always being right and being mean, all that kind of stuff. And then when they're like, "Oh, turn the machine back on," she's like, "No," and then she just rips it off like it's paper. And I'm like, are you telling me that this massive important device that you need to make sure that your people don't freak the fuck out can just be ripped off by just anyone? Like, really? I don't buy that. I do not buy that. That to me was just bad, lazy writing. And it just felt like, I don't know. It to me just felt lazy. What was your thoughts on that?
Do you know what? I didn't actually give it that much thought. I was like, oh, she's taking it off, and now she's going to refuse to put it back on, which I thought was fairly obvious. But yeah, you probably would at least try and make it a little bit more secure, in case it was knocked off if you bumped into someone in the street. I was trying to figure out if I was missing something, and whether the robot in the corner was something from the past that I just did not remember.
Lost on me if it was.
Yeah. I don't think it was.
Yeah.
I like the continuity of Kate, at least. I love that they've kept her around, because I think she's good.
I like Kate. I like Kate. She's fun, and a fun sort of connection to Lethbridge Stewart from way back in the day.
Which also reminds me that when you see the global news, that was the same actress that was the newsreader in all of Russell's old series as well. If you go back and rewatch, whenever you see the American news lady, it was the same actor, which I thought was a nice little nod to his first go around.
I mean that is fun. I missed that, but I'll give him credit for that. That's
unfortunately she's now on some sort of right-wing news channel, but
that's interesting. That's interesting. Interesting that he I guess that when you look at what he gave her to do in that scene,
yeah,
kind of makes sense. But again, yeah, I don't know. I guess the idea of the issue is that everyone thinks that they're right, and that's what everyone's fighting about. To some extent, just felt a little. I think with the way he was portraying it, felt cliched and simple, where it's like we have the Boris Johnson knockoff prime minister scene, and it's like, oh, I don't care about you, I only care about me, why do I care about you? It's like, I mean, I get it, but you're taking easy shots.
Yeah,
like maybe if you made it a bit more complicated as to what people think they're right about, not just, oh, my taxes pay for this road, so I'm going to do the road wherever I want. I can't drive, but I will. It's like, yeah, I mean, sure, there's pettiness out there for sure, but why waste an episode that has something so interesting with that level of petty right and wrong?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like you could have, you still could have done something a bit more interesting with it.
It lost pretty quickly all of that tension that you had by seeing people so desperate and fighting, because you had such a great physically performed sequence with the cars crashing, like papers flying around in the air, people literally fighting in the street, that you had a great tense kind of moment that was really going to cause anxiety in the audience by seeing things fall apart. So to then never really go back to that, because it's not like we saw people stop when it dissipated. You kind of you set up this huge conflict that then becomes so much about just having a conversation about it that even when the toy maker was on the gun kind of threatening either to shoot people or to shoot the doctor, and he mentioned that he'd thrown everyone off the platform because he said, oh, they are still falling. You never saw them falling.
Yeah.
And suddenly all of the kind of action, which was really what was giving the episode the kind of inertia that it needed, you never saw it again. And that was what really made it start to go off peak for me, was just because it lost all of the steam that it was almost like it literally flew out of the gate and lost its, like, just ran out of breath really quickly and was struggling to keep up with itself.
And
all of that constant dialogue in that moment up in the unit tower just really started to make it trudge, because it's like, okay, let's talk some more. Let's talk some more. Let's talk some more. Let's just keep talking our way through this.
Well, yeah, when the Doctor was in the unit HQ, and he's saying things like, someone is like controlling people like a puppet as if they're toys.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my god, like this is some of the worst dialogue I've seen in Doctor Who in a while, and this is following Chibnall's era, man. Like,
and the other thing with that is you're once again either relying on everyone to have read any kind of perspective article about what people thought was going to happen in this episode, or to know the complete history of Doctor Who, to know who it was. You can't rely on people knowing it. It's like, you know, again, how much Star Trek have you and I talked about? We know our Star Trek pretty well, but we don't know every single reference ever. There's still stuff that you have to go back and look at. Exactly. And if we don't know about it, then the average person tuning in because they're excited to see David Tennant on TV is not going to know a character who was in one episode, you know, 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, and probably, I don't know. It was probably more like, if it's 60, he's probably like 50.
Oh, because he is. Yeah, he's Hartnell, isn't he? So,
he's first Doctor, so he's way early on. He's way early on. It's after Susan has left, but yeah, it's pretty early on.
So you can't rely on people to know that. And I feel like a lot of it was like, oh, guess what's coming?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So then they the Doctor uncovers the laugh, uncovers the secret that it's the first image ever recorded, you know, in television, has some sort of connection, and that's the link with all this stuff, and there's some sort of vague link with a stupid Korean satellite. So then the Doctor gets told, when was this first television turned on, and they're told 1925. So him and Donna then go back in time, and one thing was interesting when they get back to 1925 is when they're walking along the street, they sort of, Donna and the Doctor have this conversation again. It's all sort of these half-baked conversations that have been happening throughout the whole season of like, why did you return to this face? And oh my gosh, you're so worn thin and so tired, you know, oh, maybe you should stop and have a family and stuff like that. And then he makes a comment that he's 1 billion years old. And I'm like, I don't know if this is a throwaway line or have we just aged the Doctor to like the stupidest degree now.
I thought I took it as a throwaway line in that moment. That he was kind of overreacting and just sort of trying to push her away because he knew that she was getting close to kind of really hitting a nerve. And he's just like, oh, for God's sake, I'm 1 billion years old. I've seen everything. Just like drop it. It'll be fine.
Yeah. I couldn't tell because I think what did one of the things that irked me during the Moffat era was how quickly he aged the Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
So like the Doctor was like 900 something years old or something like that when Matt Smith took over, but then by like season 2 he was like 2000 years old.
Yeah.
So he was clearly giving the Doctors larger lifespans, which to some degree I didn't dislike because it shows that like the Doctor has a huge life, and even though he has his regular companions, he's still going off and doing things and then returning to them, and I think that I think gave Moffat's era a better sense of scope. But now I'm like, okay, if we're saying like 1 billion, hopefully it's a throwaway line, because I just thought that's just you're taking it too far for me. If he is being serious. So then anyway, the Doctor doesn't answer the question in full, because then he's like, oh, well, if someone's going to go buy a Stooky Bill, he's going to do it at a toy shop, and right across the road is a toy shop. And it's like, that is
convenient.
Wildly convenient, you know, convenience number 2. And, you know, and it just happens, you know, and then on top of that, the extra convenience that also happens to be the convenience of that's where the villain is. So it's just, to me, it's just like too much. I
didn't quite understand something here, which was how, so he had obviously, I mean, the Doctor does say he can pass through a door and basically go from the past to the future, but I was confused as to why when we went back to him in 1925, he had the knowledge to, when they walk in, be like, oh, Donna Noble.
Yeah.
Like, huh?
Right.
That was one moment that really stood out to me. That was like, okay, so are you trying to say that he like, I can't wrap my head around it. It's a
Yeah.
paradox, because if
Yeah.
he had come from the future to the past, he wouldn't have done the thing at the beginning. So
Yeah.
did he do the thing at the beginning to go and see what the reaction would be like now,
Yeah.
to go back? And I just that's the bit where it doesn't make any sense, because I'm like, okay, so did the satellite cause this to happen, and that's why it happened now,
Yeah.
or I don't quite understand what he did and why he did
Yeah.
in that. And that sounds like I'm really pulling it apart. But for him to have known what was happening in 2023, to know the Doctor was with Donna, to know who she was, to then go back to know that they were going to come back to see him there. Oh, you've had a
Holy shit.
revelation.
I did. You've been saying this whole time. 2023. 15 years. They got the time wrong. It should be 2025.
Yes. It wasn't 2023 in the first episode. It
No.
was Star Beast, because it was 15 years.
Yeah.
Shit. They got their own date wrong.
They got their own date wrong. But also, you're right about the about the toy maker. I was confused by that as well.
And yeah. Unless Donna's wedding was 2 years earlier than the year it screened in.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know that there's ever a date stamp put on that. So, but that's interesting. Yeah, that's very interesting, because we don't explicitly say 2025 in that other episode, but that would be 15 years on from when we last saw them together.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. That's a
and also the Doctor wouldn't have returned Donna to the past.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that wouldn't have made sense, because that would destroy everything that would have happened with Wilf and everything that you know what I mean. So like, he wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
So that's ridiculous. So yeah, there's a lot of, I feel like there is some serious canon breaking stuff. And I've been saying this for a while. I think Doctor Who just needs to end. I said it with Peter Capaldi. I really wish he would have been the last Doctor. His regeneration be the final one. The Doctor actually dies, and then you shut the stupid show down for like 5 years or so, and then just start over with a whole new number one. Because essentially that is what they've done in this episode. We'll get to that, but it's like a very clunky, ham-fisted way of quasi rebooting the show that I've been saying was going to be a soft reboot since well before Russell T Davies admitted it was going to be one.
And the spoilers were correct.
The spoiler was spot on. I was shocked.
Yeah.
I was shocked. So yeah, if you listen to our first episode, that is exactly what happened. Let's return to the chat real quick. Robbo says the arc for the Doctor is odd, as it's incredibly continuity heavy, but won't work for people familiar with the continuity. 11 quote stopped on Trenzlore. 12 stopped continued. 12 stopped with River on Delirium and taught at a university for decades, guarding the Master's vault. He's definitely had downtime. He has had downtime. This is something that kind of irked me, is when Donna's like, "Oh, you've never stopped. You never, you know, you never have a family." I'm like, he was married to River. He clearly had family because he has a granddaughter. Her name is Susan. It was his first companion. In case everyone keeps, I don't know why people keep forgetting about poor Susan. Like, I don't understand that. And some people say like, "Oh, it wasn't a real granddaughter." I'm like, no, it was. Stop it. So he has had plenty of downtime. Like, you know, I think that was one of the really nice things that Moffat did with the 50th. And it was getting the Doctor past the trauma of the Time War. And then Russell brings back Tennant, and it's like, fuck all that. We're going right back to him being a moody son of a bitch.
Well, okay, so that's a good place, because you've almost got us to where we are in the story by saying that. Did you think it was interesting who was and wasn't shown as a puppet? Because we saw Amy, we saw Clara,
yes,
we saw Bill,
yes,
and then we saw planets, and they jumped straight to just talking about the flux.
Yes.
So where was Yaz? Do we not touch on anything post Bill?
That was interesting to me.
Also, I never realized how many redheads there are.
Right, me neither. But also, the toy maker was like weirdly sexual about Amy and the Doctor, and I'm like,
yes,
Amy
he was.
had Rory, and they were married, and also it's his mother-in-law. It's literally his mother-in-law. Like, literally. Like, stop it. That was weird to me. And the other thing that was interesting is the doctor seems to remember. So when the doctor and Clara parted ways, I guess he remembered a lot of stuff about her, but he says she's alive in
The
in
final
one moment
second.
of time.
Yeah.
But I don't really. I didn't. I mean, I recently rewatched that series of episodes, and I don't remember the doctor being that aware of like
Oh.
where she is in time.
Oh yeah, because didn't she, okay? So I haven't seen it since it was like actually on TV.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
didn't she just kind of leave him?
Well, yeah. So it's the three parts episode. It's
Yeah.
the Face the Raven, Hell at Heaven Sent, and we kind of get to this moment at the end of Hellbent, I think it is, where the doctor walks into a diner, which is the same diner that Matt Smith had been in a couple of times, and she's there, and the doctor he's talking to Clara, but he doesn't know that it's Clara, and he's kind of reminiscing about Clara, and that he's
I
kind
remember.
of looking for her, but he seems there's important information that is missing from him. Like he doesn't remember stuff because that was the whole deal, like that he made with Clara. So it was weird that Tennant just had that knowledge about where she is and what's going on with her. Because I'm like, you make it sound like like maybe an off-screen adventure. I don't know, but that to me was odd. That to me was odd. So anyway, they go into the toy maker's little shop. They have a conversation. Back to the stupid German accent. There's a quick little flashback of Hartnell and Goff, and
which was not the big Hartnell moment that the Radio Times had teased.
No.
There's a scene with William Hartnell that's really emotional, and it's like three frames.
It was not powerful by any stretch of the imagination. Then we have this scene again where they're running through the maze of his shop. And again, as like I said earlier, like that would have been the thing to do really early on. Like, okay, the TV was turned on at this location. They go to the location, then they get lost inside this maze. They don't know where it's going. They don't know who's behind it all. But because we already know who's behind it all, because we already had the big reveal, it just felt like, okay, I'm just waiting. I'm now just waiting for you to get through the maze because I've already seen the previews for the episode. I already know you have a confrontation on Unit HQ. Like, I'm just now bored and waiting for you to get through this because you guys walking through a maze isn't interesting to me. Like, just talking about the toy maker. Like, I needed something more to hold on to. There wasn't anything gripping about it. And I think of other episodes, like there's the one in series 6 where they where Smith and Amy and Rory are in that weird creepy hotel, and there's like that Minotaur creature.
Oh yeah.
Like that one was a fun, like kind of locked room episode that had a few people coming in and out. There was a couple other characters in that episode, but there was stuff happening and things were moving, but this was just sort of like, okay, now I'm just waiting for you to get out. Like, and I don't think that is what you should be feeling when you're watching these episodes. Like the terror of the puppets, like why, we find the guy who bought the puppet originally papered up to the wall, and then we see him being used as a puppet, which was a cool image.
Yeah, good visual, but I don't know what the point of it was particularly.
Yeah, because like, did he need saving? Did the doctor save him? Like, what was any of that about?
Yeah.
Like, other than just, I have a cool visual in my head, this is what I'm going to do. But like narratively, like where does it fit?
Because why? Yeah, my thing with it was, why did he go back there? Because they'd served their purpose. They'd created the image. So did he go back to buy another puppet because they needed it for their next kind of experiment? And that's when he trapped him. And then why did he trap him? And what was the point? Because he wasn't important. He isn't an important factor in the story. He is an important part in the history of TV. But he's kind of nothing. And then you have this moment where you get the cool visual, and you get to see the cool visual of Neil Patrick Harris that was in all the trailers, big smoky giant version of him doing the puppet stuff. And then the puppet is David Tennant.
Yeah.
At which point I'm like, okay, well now we're in some sort of weird fever dream nightmare sequence.
Yes. Yeah. That
again, looked cool, but I don't know what it served in terms of the story of what was going on.
No, and what did that tell us about David Tennant's doctor? If it is fever dreamy and he's seeing himself, like what does that mean? Like,
Yeah.
what are we meant to take away from that other
Yeah.
than nothing? It told us nothing. So anyway, the Doctor and the Toy Maker come face to face eventually, and they play a game, and the Toy Maker wins, and then they do best out of 3, and then he says, "Okay, well, we're gonna finish this in 2023," and they all go back to the future, and this is where
Oh,
the
cool
story
visual though, as they were running and the set was like curling around. I thought
that
that
was
was
cool. I'll
that
give
was
you that. I'll
cool.
give
And
you
then
that.
when it
Yeah,
turned, the building turned into a box, I thought, yeah, okay, that was a
yeah.
good use of budget, good visual
Yeah,
effect.
I agree. That was a cool scene. So we're back in 2023 at Unit HQ, and what little I was holding on to with this episode completely goes right out the window. They get back and they're trying to, as you said, the Doctor gives Melanie the box and guard it with your light, blah blah blah. And then suddenly we start hearing music play,
Not just any music.
not just any music. And then suddenly it's the Spice Girls that are playing, and then the Toy Maker pops out of nowhere, and there's like, I don't know, did they play the whole song? If they didn't, they
Pretty
played a
much,
hell of a lot
pretty
of it.
much the whole song. Yeah.
Like,
They cut out. I will admit this is a single that I bought in 1997 when I was 11 years old. They cut a bit towards the end,
yeah,
but it is most of the song. I was like, how long are
yeah,
we going to keep this going? And
yes.
by the time he was making like angels in rose petals, I was like,
Yeah.
this is going. This is really going.
Yeah. To me, it was such a. It was an insulting waste of time, in my opinion.
At that
Insulting
point,
to.
I
Yeah.
just thought he was trying to be the Joker at that point. I was like, he's
Yeah.
jokering again, but
Yeah.
now we're sort of somewhere between like Mark Hamill and Cesar Romero.
Yeah. It was. It was just. It was something that like you can do for like a couple of minutes. Like, for example. Sorry. For example, like one scene I really hate in Batman '89 is when the Joker and his crew rock up in
Do it
the
to me.
art
Do it
the
to me.
art gallery, and
Flugenheim,
they're playing the Prince song.
Party
I
Man.
hate that. I hate it. Hate it. Hate it. Hate it. It's just stupid. This scene does the exact same thing, and I'm like, you bought this song, so you're using this song, and you're using all of it. Why? What? It served no purpose. It served no purpose. Like, so people be like, oh, but it showed that he's, fun and quirky and can go around and toy with people because he's a toy maker, get it? And I'm like, I don't care. It wasn't menacing. It wasn't fun. It was boring, and it overstayed its welcome.
I think it definitely overstayed its welcome. I did have fun with it, only maybe because he turned people into balls, which was completely random.
Yeah.
It was like I could see in my head a better version of what was happening on screen in that exact moment. Like, okay, I get what you're trying to do. You're trying to show that he is chaotic and kind of impishly fun.
Yeah.
But there are better ways to do it than all of these really random ideas that are all being thrown into one scene.
Yeah. And again, as I said earlier, it's like Russell's version of the Toy Maker is also Russell's version of the Master, and it's like all he can do with villains is make them into like megalomaniacs. Like that's his idea of villain, like for the Doctor. Like, and I'm just like, can you stop turning classic villains into these hyperactive villains, because they just aren't all like that. Like, I much prefer I can't remember her name. The lady version of the Master.
Missy.
Yeah. I much more prefer her and the episode that Moffat did with Sims. That one, those were fine. But like, yeah, like I'm like, man, like,
don't chew the scenery.
Yeah, dial it back, man. And I think by this point, yeah, the episode just sort of entirely lost me, because when I think about like locations and stuff that has happened so far in the episode, I'm like, there is just not a lot going on. Like this, we talked about this last week. We're like, is there going to be enough time to devote to like fleshing people out? Like, yes, we had, we once again we see Donna's husband Sean, we see her daughter Rose, we see Sylvia back. But again, I firmly stand by what I was saying on the first episode. They are entirely and utterly superfluous. pointless, empty shells of characters. They're not characters by any means, especially when you consider how weirdly important they made Rose at the end of that first episode.
Yeah.
To her have to not have any sort of connection to this episode, to not have any sort of anything to give was nuts to me. It was lazy to me. It just this came across so much of this episode came across as lazy. It really did annoy me. Yeah, my note right after the right after the Spice Girl scene is a lot of wasted time in this episode. A lot of wasted time.
I looked, so knowing that this was, because I'd watched that weird like TikTok video of Russell T Davies saying it's really important that you watch this because there's going to be clips online right afterwards, and this one's 1 hour and 1 minute, and it's all very important. No, so I kept looking at the clock and I was like, wow, we've got like 14 minutes left, and spoiler hasn't happened yet, and we haven't had any deep and meaningful conversations that have really fulfilled anything yet, and we are vastly running out of time, and we've still got a villain running around here.
Yes, we are. We'll quickly turn to the chat. MMOBHM says, it's definitely all over now. I'm not buying Shooty as a doctor. He has no presence. It was like I said earlier, I think everyone sort of doesn't like the new doctor when they're with their very first scene. So I would have to wait for the first full episode with him to make that. For me, I'd have to wait for that first episode. And then General Grievous says, I personally liked the Giggle despite my confusions about some things. That's fine. You know, if people like the episode, that's fine. For me, when I'm watching this stuff, like, I think I'm very tough on, I want to see good character. I want to see a well plotted story. And if I have neither of those, and just like, if it's just like kind of what I would say, like mindless action, just zaniness happening, like, I think it's why, like, for example, I really didn't like the movie Birds of Prey that came out a few years ago, the Harley Quinn movie. Like, some people liked it, but I just thought it was utter nonsense. But like on a scene by scene basis, it works. And this is I'm just like a really old man here, but this is the problem that I think like the TikTok generation has, and that is everyone wants to consume bite-sized bits of information. So when they're watching something, I can't say how many times I've watched a film or a TV show where everything is fine on a scene by scene. But when you try to look at it as a whole, it's like, well, that doesn't make sense. And that doesn't make sense. Like, but remember that scene? It's like, well, yeah, but how does that scene fit into the wider picture? Like, you're looking at a picture of a flower, but let's look at the whole canvas. Then you see like it's all destroyed over here. So that's what kind of annoys me about some of this stuff. So that's how I was feeling with these particular episodes. So anyway, the toy maker then reveals himself. He's outside on the platform, and he's sitting on the laser gun. Now, why in the world does this stupid laser gun need someone to sit in it to control it outside? What if it's raining? This gun that sits outside of the building needs someone to physically sit inside of it. Like, you have all these computers, and you need someone to sit inside the gun to use it. How does that make any sense? Like, I would have bought that kind of stupidness in 2005 Doctor Who. Not 2023. I just thought that is the dumbest. That is one of the dumbest things this episode is trying to make me believe, is that this gun that sits outside, someone has to walk out there and go and sit inside and shoot it.
And considering the other things that we've seen him do in this episode, so he can turn bullets into rose petals, he can turn people into balls, he can make puppets come alive because they attacked Donna. He was controlling 4 individual puppets that attacked Donna. So could he not have control? Did his powers stop at being able to manipulate the gun into working? I don't know. That was very much for me also continuity, because he was, when they looked at him through the door, he was stood next to his little door from his universe going ha ha ha. And then when the camera cut to the opposite angle from him looking in, he was sat already in the gun and his door was gone.
Yeah.
Within like that, between 2 different shots. I was like, really? But yeah, it's very convenient that it was a gun that he could then take control of by sitting in it and literally pointing at people. Because it then gave you the kind of fake tension of, will he shoot Donna? Will he shoot Melanie? Will he shoot, Kate? Who is he going to shoot?
Yeah. And so we get to this moment, and there's more talking, so much talking. There's so much empty talking in this episode. I think that's what bothers me. I like good dialogue, but I like it when dialogue pushes things forward. But there was so much empty dialogue going on. And then we have more of it here where he's like, "Oh, come travel with me, toy maker," And it's like, where the fuck did that come from? Like, why are you suddenly wanting to like hang out with this dude? Like, that doesn't make any sense. From the last time you met with him to this time, your emotions and thoughts of him should not have changed. I don't understand why you're suddenly saying, "Come travel with me now." Like,
That, yeah.
he did it with the Master. Moffat, not Moffat, but Russell T Davies did it with the Master, I think. He was like telling him to come travel with him at some point.
It was, to me, again, that felt like I was missing a piece in the puzzle where, had you have shown me that things were getting worse down at street level, had you have shown me that things were really starting to fall apart, and had you have shown me that the Doctor was completely lost and had no idea what to do and felt like he had lost control, then there is a version of him that is desperately searching for anything that he can do to try and stop what happens next.
Yeah, sure.
Then you justify some of that dialogue because he's so desperate. But I didn't have enough pieces for that to land, which is, and again, I'm only guessing, but I just feel like that's what we were trying to say, that this was his desperate final plea to stop whatever happened next. But because and the only reason I say that is because then after it happens, you get that moment which would have been perfect, where where David's Doctor is saying how many people died, and Donna says that's not your fault. It's like, well, how many people did die? Because we haven't seen anyone having a fight since about 45 minutes ago. And this is my problem, is you're not showing me enough for the wider consequence to make sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So then the Doctor, then the toy maker says that, okay, well, if they're gonna play by the rules, then he's lost by one Doctor, he's lost by another Doctor. Now he needs to face off against another Doctor, the next Doctor. Which I don't know if that saying the next Doctor was meant to be like a reference to the episode The Next Doctor, the Christmas special, one of the Christmas specials, between Martha and Donna, I think it was, or maybe after. So then the toy maker shoots the Doctor, and he begins to regenerate, and then it's a completely different kind of regeneration. Something doesn't fully work, and we don't really know why. And so then he tells Donna and Melanie to pull on his arms. So as they begin to pull, he begins to split apart, and Shooty begins to emerge out of him. And then they pull and push and pull and push, and then suddenly the two are split in half. And they call it. Say again.
I was going to say it too. What I did like was the way the clothes split. I thought that was kind of funny.
It was funny. I admit that bit was funny, but they called it a bi-regeneration. It's supposed to be a myth. It's never happened before, but howdy ho, here we go.
Is bi-generation a word?
No idea.
Oh, if you Google bi-generation, the top thing that comes up is an article from Inverse posted 59 minutes ago saying Doctor Who just changed regeneration forever. And it is literally all Doctor Who stuff.
Yeah.
So no, I don't think bi-generation is a word.
No, I don't either. I thought it was stupid. I thought it was absolutely stupid. It was stupid and lazy and hammy and just absurd. I mean, yes, I know we're talking about a show where a guy regenerates into different people, all that kind of shit. Fine. But I just didn't. I don't know. It just felt to me like the show was tired, and it felt like a lazy, hammy way of giving itself the reboot without committing to a reboot. You know what I mean?
I really don't understand what happened, because now we have, again, this is how we talked about it before. There's now 3 David Tennants. There is 10 Tennant. There is Rose's version that is human, and now there is 14 Tennant. So there are technically 3 Tennants running around the multiverse. The Whoniverse. But for me, this was where I really went, kind of, okay. I don't mind the idea of there being 2 at the same time. I just agree with you. It was really, and again, the visual I thought was kind of cool of him kind of emerging out and then being stuck together. But the kind of lack of rationale behind it and the lack of giving any sort of sense of grandiousness to it was really lazy.
Yeah, it was.
Like,
Because
give me something in the moment. Give me something about it. Like, as he was regenerating, couldn't the toy maker have done something and gone like, "Oh, I'm going to fuck this up for you"?
Yeah.
Like there was more in there.
Yeah. And because what also drove me nuts about it is, and we're skipping ahead just a little bit, but I'll go back to the ball game in a minute. What drove me nuts about it was it's like Shooty's doctor is now telling David Tennant like, oh, well, you've never stopped, you've never rested, you never chilled, da 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 da. And then later on, Donna's like, oh yeah, but you're older than him. And so I was like, so this doesn't make sense. Why is David's doctor the one that's tormented and old and haggard and needs to rest, but Shooty is somehow fine and awesome and able and capable and not worn out by a billion years of traveling? Like, what's the rationale there, guys? Like, there was a throwaway line that is going to be the explanation, and he's like, oh, we're time lords, we work on ourselves out of order or some kind of bullshit like that. But again, bullshit. That to me is just bullshit. Like that's not a good enough explanation to let me know that that's why this is happening. Because again, go back to the 50th anniversary. Moffat already smoothed that shit over. He smoothed it over. Like I no longer felt that Matt Smith was tormented, or even Peter Capaldi's doctor was tormented by the events of the Time War. I bought it with 9 and I bought it with 10, but with 11 and 12, I didn't. I felt like they'd moved on as they should have done. And I also feel like as well, like if you think about Doctors 1 through 7, like they weren't tormented souls.
No,
the tormented soul thing was Russell's idea when he brought the show back.
Yeah.
So, and again, this is where I'm like, I feel like bringing Tennant back was this way of kind of going back to series 4, kind of forgetting about anything that happened after he left the show, and basically doing, like I said, a soft reboot that is really, in my opinion, disrespectful to everything that Moffat did afterwards. And I get it. Look, I'm not going to play him if someone wants to disrespect everything that happened to Chibnall and erase all that crap. But it seems like there's been more time spent in these 3 specials doubling down on Chibnall's stuff, whether that's the Timeless Child shit and the Flux shit, and more time wanting you to forget 11 and 12 and everything that happened there. Because if we keep that in continuity, then the Doctor should not be this sad, pathetic, like, man who hasn't stopped and is tired and whatever they're trying to do with him. Like that just doesn't work for me. Yeah, that's my rant on that. What are your thoughts?
It's in the moment of watching it, I really liked the scene between Shooty and Tennant, where Shooty was kind of going over everything. And I know it was sort of fan servicey to just start mentioning like River Song and Rose and everything, but I liked that moment. I thought they both played it really well, and I liked the way that dialogue was written. But you are right. We have seen him move past some of this, so why is he back under it again? Yeah. And do I really buy the really throwaway line where, again, I really liked the moment and I liked the dialogue between the Doctor and Donna, where she says, "This is what, like, you are so tired that you went back to this face and you came back to me to come home." I liked the approach. I don't agree it was right in canon of the show, but I at least thought those moments were nicely done in the episode.
Yeah.
When you kind of strip away lack of context or kind of misplacing them in the timeline, but
because yeah, go on.
No, go on. I don't think I have anything else relevant to say on that one.
That's right. Because if the Doctor was really going to go home, of any of his modern companions that he was going to go home to,
Rose,
it would have been Rose.
Yeah,
it would not be Donna. Donna was just a fun mate, and this is where the show was getting complicated or complicating itself, because it's confusing, like, the people's reaction to the companions and the dynamic with what is reality for the Doctor. For the Doctor, Donna is the one who helped him get over get over losing Rose.
I suppose you can't really go back to Rose because she is utterly trapped elsewhere.
Oh,
And
there's
probably
always
said
some
no.
bullshit. There's always some bullshit reason to get back there.
She probably said no to being in the episode.
Probably. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, by all means. Also, she doesn't look the same anymore, if anyone has seen her lately.
I
Anyway,
did watch an interview with her earlier, and she can at least move her face more than she could when she came back in season 4.
Boom. Let's return to the chat real quick. Robbo says, blah, 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 blah. Why does a laser gun have the capability to turn itself backwards and point at the building it's sitting on? Well, that is another good point, sir. I agree with you. It was dumb. And he also says, I rewatched the 11th hour before this, and I missed Moffat's way of intelligently getting the Doctor out of the problems he puts him in. RTD's stories always resolve in violence or deus machina. I wholeheartedly agree with that. Sometimes Moffat got clunky towards the middle and end of his run with a lot of waving the sonic screwdriver around. But there were he definitely thought things through. Like, I mean, again, I'll bring it up because I've said it many times, but Angels in Manhattan, the idea they needed to create a paradox to stop the Angels. And the paradox was that Amy and Roy jumped off a building together. That's them thinking through. That's not using craziness to win. So I like that. Robert says, as a black man, don't like RTD's unintentional pandering to horrible fans angry about a black doctor by making David Tennant technically still the Doctor and delegitimizing Ncuti as. You know what? I had that same fucking thought as a white dude. I had the same thought. I legitimately thought, wait a minute. So you're giving the first black Doctor can't just be the Doctor. He's got to be some new bi-regeneration thing. The Doctor isn't able to regenerate into a black man. He has to be separate from the white guy. That to me was, for all this bullshit that Russell T Davies has been on about how Davros can't be a wheelchair-bound villain because of whatever the fuck. Like, wow. That really, really didn't sit well with me. It really didn't. It was...
I felt a little uncomfortable at the Donna line as well, and I know it was a joke.
Oh yeah, do you come in different colors?
Yeah, like, again,
God.
obviously you can see me. I don't really have a leg to stand on when it comes to anything like that. But that moment, I was
We're
like,
both very pasty men.
I was like, is that some? Can you say that?
No, you can't.
Which was interesting, considering they'd had that moment earlier in the episode where she talked about where Donna had said about parking him on a bench, and then she turned to what was her name?
Which one, Shirley? Which one?
Shirley, thank you.
Yeah.
I was going to call her Sheila.
She's so memorable. She's so memorable, that character.
Said, is it okay for me to say that? And she was like, well... Yeah.
It's odd.
I agree with you. I also thought, do we really need to delegitimize in this sense? But I also... and maybe this was just my brain trying to rationalize it, but you know how there's always that thing with a series finale, the final episode of a show.
Yeah,
it always goes one of two ways. It's either absolutely dire, and everyone slates it, Game of Thrones, or it's too overly romantic towards some element, something that the showrunner is just like, I can't quite let go of this.
Yeah,
and I felt like this was too overly romantic to Tennant. If this was like,
yes.
Even though I killed him off once in the way that this show does, this time I can't do that. He needs to still be around. And that was probably never meant as a way to delegitimize Ncuti, but ended up doing it through overly romanticizing David.
Yeah. Well, it brings the problem back of, why did you bring David Tennant back at all? Like, there really was, when you look at this 60th special as a whole, there has been no reason to bring him back other than pure fan service, and to hopefully get your numbers back. Simple as that. Other than that, like, I can't see the justification for it. I really can't see the justification for this kind of regeneration. It's never happened before. Why you were fine to turn Capaldi into a blonde-haired white woman, but you won't turn. You can't let go of David Tennant. You're so held on to David Tennant that you have to keep him around now. Like, it is odd. It is odd. to me, and also it's also strange that for some, like I said, like Shooty, his version of the Doctor seems to be without the burdens.
Yeah.
I'm still not. You know, I mentioned a few minutes ago. I'm still not sold on why he is burdenless.
He's the other side of the reboot.
Yeah, like
So Russell did say, and by no way is this me trying to excuse any of the things that we've talked about. He did say, I can't remember where this interview is. This might be the one I sent you a snippet of, where he kind of has said, "I'm going to change the law. I'm going to do something massive. I'm going to do something completely unprecedented that kind of breaks Doctor Who." I don't know if that was the exact. I'm paraphrasing, but what he says is, go and watch the episode with his commentary, because I don't know if you know this, but they drop an episode commentary on BBC iPlayer after every episode.
No.
So you can immediately go and rewatch it with some kind of commentary with various people involved in it. And he has done one specifically for this episode where he said he kind of is giving some more context to what we have seen on screen and sort of explaining rationale behind it and reasons behind it. So I haven't watched either of the other two, but I'm interested to watch this one and see what he has to say.
I might have to do that. That could be interesting, because I don't like it. No matter what he says, I'm not going to like it, because
will this be a thing now? So will this be every time? So because this is where we get to the point where I said to you, where it's going to turn out that Gallifrey is actually entirely just versions of the Doctor.
It's true.
Because is everyone just gonna like strip out from the last one, and then they're just gonna mount up to the point where there's like the planet of the Doctors, and then it'll be like, oh, that's Gallifrey. They're all him. He is them, and they is him.
Yeah, this is where I'm just like, you need to, when you have a character like the Doctor, stop overcomplicating them.
Yeah.
Because that's the worst thing you can do to your show. This is why I kept saying I don't want Shooty season to be Doctor Mystery and Companion Mystery. Because every time they do it, it just gets clunkier and clunkier. And what are we getting in the next season? We're getting mysteries about the companion.
And we now know that's confirmed to run right through the season as well, which is not what I wanted.
No, not at all. It's like, come on, we don't need this. Just at times, like, strip it back to normal. Just strip it back. Go simple with some of this stuff. Just do fun adventures,
Go episodic. Don't even need an arc. Just give us a fun, different story every week.
Yeah.
Different time period, different planet, different thing.
Yeah. So I don't know. This whole episode left me pretty cold. So actually, we're not quite finished yet. So anyway, Shooty takes over.
Yeah, we've missed Hacky Sack.
We play Hacky Sack for a few minutes. I just kept thinking, this is your 60th anniversary. This is your finale to your 60th anniversary, and you're playing Hacky Sack on top of a building. Like, it's as stupid. And I'm gonna be honest with you, the original show with the Toymaker is dumb. It's not fun. It's not interesting. It's two companions jumping on basically playing playing the floor as lava is what they're doing, with some like fat man. And the Doctor is with the Toymaker in some other room and like has no voice, and it's very silly, very cheesy, very lame, not fun. They're not really fun episodes in my opinion. But yeah, so I just kind of thought, going to the Hacky Sack thing, it's like, yes, that's kind of as lame as the original, but aren't we trying to not be lame? Like,
how do you, again, I know I keep coming back to this point, but down on the street, people are literally tearing each other apart, and we're resolving it by chucking a ball around, which also clearly no one was very good at catching, because you never saw anyone catch it. It was always off frame.
Yes.
Like, literally off frame every single time.
It was. I had the same thought. I was like, that no one is catching that ball at all.
It probably isn't even a ball.
No.
There's probably a really hilarious, like, if you go and watch Unleashed right now, there's probably just three men jumping around a green screen set going,
probably.
Like, with nothing.
Yes. Yeah. So they do this for a while, and eventually the Toymaker misses the ball, and then the Doctor banishes him from existence forever, which seems like an odd overkill, given that a second ago you're like, come travel the stars with me. Now he's like, fuck you forever. Like, it's like, wow, there's like, that's a bit nuts. Of course, then this gold tooth falls out, and a hand from somewhere picks it up.
Female hand. Which was odd, because, okay, and I need to, obviously I've only seen it once, so don't shout at me if I got this wrong, but did the camera not pan up as if it was sitting on the ledge of the like helipad? Because the camera panned up and the tooth was there, and then the hand came from almost behind the camera.
Yeah, it was
I'm
weird.
I'm like, is she floating?
Yeah.
And so that kind of reminded me of the Missy reveal, where, well, not
Mm.
reveal, the first time we knew the Master was going to be a woman was because you saw just part of her off, like on the frame, just move through, and it was like, oh, it's a woman.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, as the Master out of the tooth and the Master is now a woman again, is Missy back again? Has she gone back one? Because that, like, I love that actress. She is absolutely brilliant. So if they got her back, I would be very happy. But like, I don't know what you're trying to say. And is she floating?
Yeah, it was odd. It was odd. So we'll see where that goes. So then we get some dialogue where, you know, Donna's like, oh, you know, the one adventure you've never had is da 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 da, and you change your face to find me and to come home. And I'm like, bullshit. I literally in my notes wrote, nah, BS. It's literally in my notes. But then the doctor's like, I could never give up the TARDIS. And this is where things again just get to just infinite levels of stupid to me, where he pulls out a Harley Quinn hammer and goes outside and hits the TARDIS and then suddenly makes a second TARDIS. And I'm like, none of this, like, I know we're talking about a show with an alien with two hearts who time travels and all this kind of shit, but I'm like, there have been nicely established rules that kind of make this like the fun world that you want to live in, and why you kind of believe certain aspects of it. But now you're just like, when you start making stuff up to this degree of, I can just hit the TARDIS because some lame excuse, because there's some residual bullshit from the toy maker that, oh, this is why this is possible. What?
Exactly, because if, again, okay, I get what they were doing, it's overly romanticizing, whatever, but if there was some kind of residual energy around that meant that any person could do that, then surely anyone could have done anything in the moment as he was around.
Yeah.
They all could have been popping atoms anywhere. Any random thought in your head could have caused anything to happen.
Yeah, right? Like it's just it was to me that was nuts. And I didn't, like I said, I didn't understand why suddenly the TARDIS has a jukebox in it all of a sudden.
I thought that, the only I was confused as to whose was whose to begin with.
Yeah,
I was like, this is how we're supposed to tell them apart? One of them's going to have a jukebox and the other didn't.
But then they both did, and I was like, wait, what? Like, I'm sorry, like what is going on? Like, what does this have to do with anything? It was just very, very weird, very weird. And then then Shooty's doctor is powering up the TARDIS. He's about to leave. They do a little quick goodbye.
He's got a nice sassy theme that's starting to come through in Murray Gold's score, which I was like, okay, I appreciate. This is slightly different musically. I like it.
Yeah, it was different. Well, I'd be interested to see if if he invents a different theme. There wasn't anything hooky about what was being played. It was just it was kind of like
different.
It was like the build up to a theme that hasn't really come out yet. So I'm interested to see how that plays out. But yeah, so then we have a cut scene of we're back at Donna's house and everyone's having lunch, and it's just sort of really boring. It's just really boring. And like, okay, the doctor had some adventures with Rose. Oh, you're grounded. Okay.
Yeah, he took her to Mars briefly.
Yeah. Okay. Fun.
I think we were supposed to take that as this nice, okay, he's finally learned to love and have a family, and he's happy and he's in a good place and he's got these nice people around him. And I get the intent, but execution didn't quite come off.
No, well, it's all completely undercut by the fact that he turns around and we find out he's actually been going on adventures.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so you went through all that emotional bullshit to then take us back to, okay, well, he's not listening. He's not doing anything, because why would he? Because that's not who the doctor is. The doctor isn't someone who's going to sit around and do nothing. Like, that's just not it. And again, it is going to make people sit around and think and debate who is the real doctor, because there's now two of them out there, and it's a split thing. And kind of as Robbo was saying, like, there's a split thing. Which one is the real one? The one who's your complete
what was it, 100 and something idiots who complained that there should never have been a trans person in Doctor Who,
Yeah.
are all going to find themselves able to say, well, it's fine, Ncuti's not the real Doctor.
Well, I mean, you're gonna get it. Like, that's what's unfortunately gonna happen for some people. But it's like, you know, I can see where this debate is going to come from, because, like, yeah, what is this? Doesn't make sense. We've never had this before. And as
Yeah.
you were saying, is this going to be a new thing? Are they going to constantly splitting apart? Is this going to be some stupid explanation to have like multiple masters just like pull themselves apart, and like he then has to face like 12 masters that are all like what? Like, and will they all be the same face? Will they all be different faces? Is this just like, what is this? Is again, this is where it just gets overly clunky. This is why the Timeless Child is fucking stupid. And the idea that the Doctor was some little kid on some little planet that had a bajillion regenerations and is able to regenerate countless times, which doesn't make sense because he was already on his last regeneration with Matt Smith in his final episode, and the Time Lords granted him a whole new cycle of regeneration. So if he is this timeless being, why in the world would they have done that in that episode? Like, again, like, what is happening? What Chibnall and now Russell T is doing is they're muddying up the continuity. At least Moffat had the respect, I think, for what Russell was doing with the Time War, and didn't like shit all over it. Like, he didn't make the Time War redundant for the Doctor.
Yeah.
And didn't make it so that when the War Doctor regenerated into the Ninth Doctor, that like it made any of that useless. It made all that stuff had its purpose. And here I'm just like, wow, you were just this whole episode just felt in like in certain places just felt stupidly indulgent. It's a weak villain. It's a stupid regeneration. It's a I don't know, the explanation for the face made no sense at all. We've already had the face explanation when Peter Capaldi regenerated, or when Smith regenerates Peter Capaldi. We already had a whole season of face stuff, and
Yeah.
it wasn't until Clara's season that we get the full reveal for it, and that is, I chose this face. I chose this face to remind myself that I'm the Doctor, that I save people. Like, it's all about being good and heroic, and that's what he does. Like, this was just indulgent. I am vain and I need to return to this face because whatever effing reason they have. I don't know. This whole when the episode ended, I just like sighed. I'm like, I have no interest in watching anymore. And it's a shame because like I would be interested to see what Ncuti does. But knowing that Russell is behind it now, and knowing that I'm not really keen on what he's been doing, I'm like, do I really want to keep going down this road?
It could be interesting to see if directionally it continues, or if this was a complete muddle to get us to a soft reboot, and that now things are going to be very different and suddenly be clean again.
Yeah. I mean, because essentially the way I was reading Ncuti is he's really a new number one. Him saying that I don't have any of your hangups.
Yeah.
I'm fresh.
Yeah.
Is
very much one energy.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, so why didn't you just do it? Why didn't you not just do it? Or like go to a different universe? Like, it's fine. Like, I don't care. Like, just start with a legit new number one. Like, if that's what you're gonna do. But Doctor Who will forever be complicated now, more so than it ever was, with both Timeless Child nonsense and now bi-regeneration. It's going to be an absolute like shit show, and I wouldn't be surprised if a future showrunner strips all that stuff away or whatnot. But yeah, let's return to the chat briefly. Brando says the toy maker loses because black people are better at sports. Winky face.
Yes.
He says, again, not accusing Russell of anything, but it feels iffy. Picking up this is Robbo. Next three things are from Robbo. He says picking up of the gold tooth, I guess, was a nod to somebody with red nails picking up Smith's master ring in the last of time. Yeah, that's true. It's true. He says, I feel like one of the conceits of the Doctor, why he doesn't stay, is because humans get old and die, and it's painful. And I think Russell missed it in trying to make a happy ending for his fave. Absolutely, he did. Like, there's that wonderful line in Moffat's era with the last episode with River Song, I think, and the name of the Doctor, where he's like, he hates endings. Or
Yes.
no, it might have also been the Angels. No, it's the Angels. The Angels take Manhattan. He hates endings. That's why he like ripped the page out of the book and all that kind of stuff. It's like, yeah, I get it, because he is timeless. He is going to outlive most people he comes in contact with, which also bears the thing of like, why does every companion need to be from Earth? Like back in the day, they weren't all from Earth. Some of them were aliens. And I'm like, do something daring and fun and different. Like, not every companion needs to be from modern day Earth. I remember when Clara was announced, and they showed her as in Victorian garb. I thought, oh, cool, he's gonna have like a Victorian companion. That's gonna be interesting.
Yeah.
Be really fun. And then it's like, oh no, it's just for one episode. I'm like, oh, okay, fine, I guess. And then Robo also says the weird pseudo happy ending with Ten's clone staying with Rose works because the clone had a human lifespan. True. In
Yes.
theory, if he stays, Tennant will watch the entire Noble family die.
Oh, that's dark, but very true.
I mean,
Yeah.
he will. That's exactly what's going to happen. Like, what? He's just going to be the ageless uncle? Like,
And your other problem is obviously with that. I mean, David may never ever want to come back again. He may, this may be him saying, I've done my thing now. I came back for 50. I have done these specials, wonderful experience for him, I'm sure. But for us, if there's ever a moment where Ncuti or any other future Doctor is backed into a corner, we're all just going to go, well, where's Tennant?
Yep.
Why didn't you call Tennant?
Yeah.
Like,
Literally two of you.
You've got a backup hanging around. Like, never mind the fact that you could converge, like the 50th anniversary. You literally have another one with their own TARDIS. You have the power of 2 TARDISes, the power of 2 Doctors, the power of 2 sonic screwdrivers, the whole shebang. Yep. So you have a really, yeah.
It's got that Iron Man 3 problem, where it's like, well, where's Hulk and where's Captain America and where's Black Widow? Like, Tony, you telling me you don't have any connections? Like, what's going on here? Like, although I like Iron Man 3, but it is one of those problems where
it's the same problem that all the CW DC shows got into at the end, because by the time Arrow had finished and Supergirl had finished and stuff, you get to the final season of Flash where he is literally facing apocalypse after apocalypse, and yet he never calls on all of those other people because they're all off doing other stuff and they aren't interested in coming back.
Yeah. I really think this regeneration has set up way more problems than it's ever going to fix. It really has. And I like I said, I know we were talking about earlier, but I am slightly, there's a feeling of ick not letting Ncuti regenerate into the Doctor and having to be some split, some splits. That to me just feels weird. Just feels weird to me. I don't like it. The other thing that I reminded myself of is there's a moment where the Doctor is in the toy makers, when they're in the toy makers shop, and he's like talking to Donna, and he's like, oh, well, if you take away my TARDIS and you take away my sonic screwdriver, what am I? And he like shrugs, and I'm like, there was like a whole era where like you couldn't even use the TARDIS. Like number 3, John Pertwee's Doctor, like for the longest time was unable to use the TARDIS. So he wasn't falling in time or space. He was literally stuck on Earth. Like, so we've seen him without the TARDIS, and he was just fine. He got around in Bessie. He did all right.
God,
like,
yeah, Bessie.
Yeah, the old classic Doctors didn't use a sonic screwdriver that much.
Yeah.
So it's like, we know what you're like without both of those things, because
we never saw it do its magical screen thing after Starbeast.
That's true.
Its new powers disappeared pretty quickly.
They did. As they should. But like, it's like, huh. Like, again, it's one of those things like, there seems to be this massive misunderstanding of who the Doctor is and where he's come from. And this sense of the only thing that seems to matter is Russell's era. And that's it. And again, like there's a part of me that feels like it's slightly insulting to not have had Matt Smith and Peter Capaldi return for this special. Really, really do find that a pretty big like slap in the face with a wet fish. So that will never sit well with me that the 60th didn't even attempt to bring anyone in. There was an interview with Matt Smith, and he's like, "Nope, I was never asked. No one ever talked to me about it." And you couldn't quite tell if he was doing that like Andrew Garfield thing, but like, "I'm not in Spider-Man No Way Home, I promise."
Those set photos aren't me. That video was faked.
Yeah, like and then I was like, he could be lying, and maybe, but nope. I really was quite surprised that they foregoed bringing back two very, very, very good modern doctors, and probably the only time that we could ever have some sort of equivalent, modern day equivalent of like a 5-doctor situation.
Yeah.
And then went with this weirdo bi-regeneration, 2 Tennants, their Tennant split in half. Now we've got multiple Tennants rocking around the multiverse. I don't know. It feels you know what it feels like? It feels like fan fiction.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
It feels like fan fiction. It's something some dweeb on what's that website called that no one ever uses anymore? What's the Tumblr? It feels like some dweeb on Tumblr would have written back in like 2014, you know? Like that's that's what it feels like to me.
I think my biggest problem is and I say this as someone who really enjoyed Star Beast and did definitely enjoy this as well. Blue Yonder, yeah, never gonna go back to that again. But I feel like, and I think we've proven it the last 3 weeks, they're kind of, well, it's more me than you, fun to watch, and I'm kind of enjoying myself watching them. And I've gone back and watched Star Beast a couple more times. I've enjoyed it, and I will go back and I will watch this one again, and I'm sure I will enjoy it. But the minute you really start to talk about it and think about it, it just
Yep. I think that's the biggest problem with what's happened with with Russell's second era. It's not holding its weight. It just isn't. And like, there's been tons of like goofy episodes in his older era. Like the next Doctor that I mentioned earlier is one of them. It's with the Victorian Cybermen and cyber monsters stomping across London. Like, it's all a bit silly and goofy, but like there was a proper kind of build up to the revelation and a build up to the monster and a build up to the end. And this idea running through the whole episode. Oh, the Doctor's like, oh my God, this is the next me. He doesn't quite know who I am yet. And then like, there was all this kind of fun stuff happening. So it's like, I know his era had, I know from his previous era that he has the capability of doing fun stuff and doing stuff that has a nice build up. But it does feel very, I guess this is giving me Disney vibes. This is giving me Iron Man 2. This is giving me other people are in charge, and someone is in charge who's wanting to do things differently. And whether that is not the BBC, and that is just, this is how Russell wants to do things, because maybe he has more control now than what he did.
Because it's not BBC, it's not BBC production anymore. It is his, it is Bad Wolf's production for the BBC. They are licensing it from him, so he does have more control.
Yeah. So it's and I know the BBC have they have their own set of problems, but this could just be this is what he wants, or maybe this is a mixture between him and Disney. I don't know, but there's a disconnect. I don't know. It's hard to articulate it right now, but all I can say is what we just watched was a limp finale for 60th. Put in context of a 60th anniversary special, very limp, like shockingly limp. Not instilling much interest in wanting to carry on, but heyo. I mean, I'm sure we'll all watch the Christmas special. I don't know if I'll actually watch it on Christmas Day. I probably won't actually. I'll probably end up watching it on Boxing Day or something.
5:55 on Christmas Day.
5:55.
That's the time that was in the advert. 5:55.
There we
Very
go.
specific.
Yeah, I mean, what do you hope to get out of Shooty's season?
I want fun. I think. I'm watching the final season of Sex Education at the moment, which is obviously where he made his name. Worst season of that program. However, he is still a shining light in that program, and he is brilliant. And what you can see of him is he is a fun guy. He he can imbue a character with so much life and so much color, and it's just so fun. And if you really let him go, he will absolutely bounce off the walls, but not in a scenery chewing way, in a just fun, vibrant, lively way. And I feel like that's what we had with early days of Tennant, and maybe not Christopher Eccleston, because he never really looked like he wanted to be there all that much. But that sense of,
but he didn't want to be there.
that sense, I feel like that sense of fun is what got us all hooked when Russell T Davies brought it back. It was fun, and I do like the idea of a serialized arc, but I've had too much of that. I've had too much dark stuff. I've had too much weight. I want fun. Yeah. And Christmas does at least look like fun. So what you saw in the trailer, you got a little bit of the new companion. You saw a scene which is really going to upset some of the people that have already complained about Rose.
Why? What is it? Just tell me.
So it was a scene of, I don't know if it was a gay club. I will say it was a gay club, but it may not have been. But it was the Doctor in a dress, dancing in a club, like twirling in a nice big dress, looking very gender fluid. New companion is watching on, and that's how she first sees him, and I guess is drawn to him because he's just living his life.
Well, hold on, let's pause for a second.
Yep.
Why is that okay, but Tennant couldn't regenerate into 13's outfit because of drag? I mean, that's straight from Russell. That's Russell. What he said. I'm not making that shit up. Russell said he wouldn't let him do it because of sensitivity to drag. But then in this first episode, he's dancing around in a dress in a club.
I'm sure it was a dress. I'm gonna have to relook it up, but I'm pretty sure he was in a dress. Christmas trailer.
Yeah, look it up. Let's. I don't know if we'd get doxxed if I actually played it on the channel.
You can literally see there he is dancing in a dress in the middle of the scene. So it's going to be very different. But there was an instant sense of I got shooty, and what I know of him from roles I've seen him in. That's going to piss off so many people. And that's what I want. I want fun. I want something different, and I just want to see some life back in it.
Do you think that the explanation for this is, do you think this is why Russell decided to do a bi-regeneration? Because it's a whole new Doctor? It's not really, and this goes back to Robbo's thing. It's not really the Doctor.
Yeah.
This is going to make people lean more into that. That's not really the Doctor.
Yeah, it's
the Doctor. Tom Baker's Doctor would not do that.
Yeah.
Colin Baker's Doctor might.
Yes.
But when you kind of go back and like think about the old Doctors all the way up until now, I mean, this really does put an interesting spin on why the BBC, particularly the BBC, if you own the iPlayer, why it has timestamps, 63 to 87 or 89, 2005 to 2021 or whatever it was. It's
2023 onwards.
It's and then 2023 onwards. Like these are like grave stamps of is what this is. And it's interesting because I feel like I think this is going to be his excuse for it. Like, this is a new Doctor, it's a new lease on life. It's why it's a new season 1. He's not bogged down by the mistakes of his past because he doesn't have those anymore.
He's literally dancing in a club.
Yeah.
He has no troubles.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, man, I wish I'd watched the trailer before the show.
So yeah, you get to see that. You get to see the I don't know if it's London, I'm not sure where it was, but somewhere up in the clouds above, presumably where Ruby is living, there is this old rickety pirate ship flying through the sky full of goblins, and that's about all you get from it. You see the two of them getting hoisted up in the air. There's a good scene of the Doctor running across rooftops, and then them getting hoisted up into this pirate ship, and you get a general sense of it looks like a fun standalone Christmas episode.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. We will be there to watch it. I'm sure if there's time, there could possibly be another review. But one of these days,
is that
Pop
our
Culture
Christmas
Investigations? Say again.
Is that our Christmas special?
That will be our exactly. One of these days, Pop Culture Investigations needs to talk about something else other than Doctor Who. maybe like squeeze something else in. But no, our Doctor Who chats are too long. There's no time. There's no time. Our episodes are twice as long as the episode of Doctor Who. But,
yeah.
the thing is, there's always a lot to unpack, and I think this is the problem when you go into like commentary phase. Like there's a lot to unpack with this stuff when you go kind of beat for beat. But yeah. So well, anyway, I'm looking forward to kind of seeing what happens to some degree, but I think on a whole, I'm not instilled with much confidence based on what Russell has done so far. I still stand by. I just wish they had a proper line in the sand reboot, because that's essentially what we were getting. And because I might have been in our first episode. I mentioned this. Like I felt like the new Shooty would be. Oh, I think I was saying that I thought he might be from a parallel universe, multiverse Doctor, and not even be. And that's how we would carry on with the new Doctor, in a new universe. It's our universe, but not our. You know what I mean? And we didn't get quite that, but we're not far off. We're not far off.
I'm just looking to see what people are sort of tweeting right now. There was an issue with the subtitles that once he had bi-generated, David Tennant's subtitles said brackets 10th Doctor whenever he spoke.
Oh my god.
Not 14th.
That's too funny.
Nothing actually major. I thought there might have been something for that trailer. A couple of people saying, I'm obsessed with 15 already. I bawled my eyes out.
There's nothing to bawl your eyes out over. There's nothing to bawl your eyes out in this episode. Oh my god, is that what I need to do? Do I need to go to Twitter and just make fun of people?
Oh, I mean, that's what better thing to do is there? No major reactions to that trailer, which is interesting, and I'm quite glad to see. I was really worried that there was going to be a whole load of the usual absolute crap about, oh, this is too woke.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the thing. It's like I feel like in general, like I think in general, Doctor Who is far enough away from certain, maybe not far enough away, but I think in general society has moved on enough that, like, because the Doctor turning into a black dude, that really isn't going to be an issue. I mean,
I really hope so.
You know, because actually I think when Tennant was going to regenerate, the guy from Peep Show was a contender to be the Doctor. The guy who plays Johnson or whatever his name is, I can't remember his name. He's a black dude from Peep Show. So you know, I feel like that time has kind of come and gone. I don't think there would be really like genuine uproar over anything like that. I feel like if there was, it would be in a sense like Disney manufactured uproar.
Yeah.
Like because I really don't, I know Disney, like they always like to say stuff about how it's always when stuff is shit that they start blaming other people.
True.
Like oh, the Obi-Wan show, no one liked it because of racism. It's like, no, it's because the show was shit, guys. Like the Obi-Wan show was terrible. Or like they talk about The Last Jedi. Oh, no one liked Rose. No, she was a dumb character. It was nothing to do with nationality. But they always use it as the shield to and so I think like I would see Disney doing that with this stuff. Yeah. But there's too much. There's too much on television. There's too much like fluidity with the Doctor to sort of, I think, genuinely be able to come at the show from that perspective.
Especially if you have any knowledge of it. Yeah. I could see the usual kind of people jumping on the bandwagon that know absolutely nothing about it, make some kind of really stupid comment.
Definitely. It'd be like the couple of like Dumbos out there who would say something like that. But I think in general, like, I would have thought the time is well past to finally get a black dude to play the Doctor. And that's why this is like, okay, well, he kind of is. Sort of. Is it? Sort of. But yeah, I don't know. So I really wasn't worried about that, but it will be interesting to see what happens. Like, yeah, this person can't stop crying. There's nothing to cry about in this episode. Was there? Was there anything like tear jerky about this episode?
No. Unfortunately not. I would have liked that, but no.
Yeah. I don't know. But anyway, I could get lost reading tweets all night, so I'm not gonna do that. But yeah, I think there is going to be a lot of hyperbole out there. I'm seeing just some on my own basic timeline, where I'm just like, I'm like, I don't agree with what you're saying. I don't agree with anything. But yeah, because it's just blah, 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 blah. It's a shame because when you think about the end of time, part 1 and 2,
Yep.
like that was such a fun finale. Even though I don't really like the Master, there was still a lot to really enjoy about that finale. And others like Smith's finale was really good. Capaldi's finale was mostly good, but there was a gross misunderstanding of the First Doctor for some reason. They turned the First Doctor in Capaldi's final episode into some like sexist dinosaur, which was so not what the Doctor was like back in the day. Like he was like
Yep.
telling like Bill to stay inside and sweep the floors, and
Of course, yeah.
I'm like, Hartnell never did that. Like that to me felt like BBC telling Moffat what to do, like not like Moffat wanting to. Yeah. So anyway, I could keep ranting forever, but I won't. We will reconvene sometime after the Christmas special to do a catch up on that, and go from there. When does the new season begin?
Don't know. They've not said yet. I presume
okay,
it won't be. It's not going to be too long after Christmas special. I would have thought maybe March, April time. Perhaps they'll give it a few weeks to just settle after Christmas. Well, I would imagine they will announce on Christmas Day. There'll be a trailer at the end of the Christmas special that will give us a look at the season and give us an air date, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think so. Cool. Well, everyone, thanks for tuning in to this episode of Pop Culture Investigations, and we will be back with another episode at some point in time, probably about Doctor Who and other things. So until next time, have a good one.